Yeah, listen, I understand how it can go both ways. I think it takes uh, certain players to be able to do that, and that's not an easy thing for the center. I was close to their center, so I know that's not an easy thing to do. And my hat goes off to them for making it as consistent as they are doing it. Now, there are other things you have to look at. You got to look at the injuries that take place, or whatever the other deals are that they evaluate on it. So I don't have all that information, but I mean it's a heck of a play. I know that. Yeah, no, you are going to keep communication open if comfortable doing that. With Pat, we're able to talk and try to keep him informed on things. Um, he doesn't have to make the decision. That's not. He knows all that. He's not in there feeling like he's got to jump up and hire the president of the organization. We try to keep him. Brett and I try to keep him informed and on changes that take place. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would tell you yes. There are a lot more coaches now than when I first started. You didn't have the same number of coaches on a staff. Maybe a little bit like um, medicine, where you're just specific to this one area, and I think that you're seeing more of that in the coaching world, where um, you know it's maybe not tight ends, offensive line. It's tight ends, and then you have an assistant offensive line coach. Most teams have two of them, and defensive line's kind of the same way. Maybe it's the defensive ends, the defensive tackles, and you split that up. So secondary is the same way. So there, there's a lot of, and then you have the worker bees in there, the quality control guys, and you can have a number of those guys that are younger guys that are working their way up through, but there are a lot of areas that they can work on, especially the more technologies become available for you. Yeah, I think the game has grown. I had a chance to break down, I believe it was a 1958 game, first televised game with the Giants and whoever. And that was to see how simple the game was at that time. Um, Number of plays, the quarterbacks calling the plays. I mean, we've progressed from there. And like I said, the more technologies become part of it, the less secrets anymore. The more your error margin has got to be tiny, tiny. So, and sometimes that's a number of people to do. Make sure you cover all the bases. Yeah. House, I mean, that wouldn't make sense, right? Because he had been with us, um, and we thought he was a great coach when he was with us. So we had an opportunity to bring him back here, and I lost a couple coaches too. So Donald moved on, and hats off to him. He's a great kid, and he's going to be. He's a great coach now, but he's going to be phenomenal as he goes forward. So this gave him a chance to take a step forward, and then Chris worked with us in training camp, and his brother's a defense coordinator for the Ravens, so he jumps in, and we felt great about him when he was with us this summer, and we were able to bring him back here, and now he's a young guy that's going to be in a quality.
I think like every offseason, I don't want to offensive line, defensive line. I mean, you got to get a quarterback, right? And so we have one, and we're blessed to have one. But I think if you look at how we've handled the off seasons, whether it was a Joe Tooney or trading for a Brown or a Tate or Frank Clark or Chris Jones, I mean, it's Mike Dana last year. I mean, we're always investing in the offensive and defensive lines. It's just some years you have more numbers to work with than others, and I mean, that would probably be a similar challenge this year, and it's just coming up with some different unique plans. But I think our priority is always on the fronts first, and this will be no different. Yeah, I think there's a good possibility. It's funny, Brooke, you mentioned that. I was just talking to an agent. He had a couple running backs coming up, and I said if you'd asked me a few years ago, I wouldn't have been as optimistic. But with the years, some of the guys that signed last year had, I think everything kind of comes full circle, and teams always it goes in flows where it's a run league, then it's a pass league, then it gets a little bit more balanced. But I certainly think when you have those, especially when you have those unique guys that have a full skill set where they can run, catch, and block, I think you'll start to see those guys coming back up to where they should be in the market. Well, shoot, Mike was like a best friend for me. I mean, he was the first guy I met when I came to Kansas City. We shared an office together for years, and he was one of those guys that when you go through a transactional period, whether it be free agency or the draft, I mean, you're always going to have big group discussions, small group discussions, discussion with your head coach, and then you're going to pull a guy to the side to really just share your thoughts and ideas with, and he was that guy for me. So I'm going to miss that, and I'm sure we'll still have some of those dialogues now when we're both vying for a same position or a same need, maybe with each other. But he's a great guy. I'm really happy for him and his family, and I think he'll do some really good things there in Tennessee. What was? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a combination of everything, and I think we again approach every offseason where we want to get him not overthink. He's grown and developed so much where Coach Nagy and I talk about this. He knows maybe too much at this point, where he's seeing things that maybe defenses don't even do now because he's that far advanced. But I think it just comes down to settling his feet and him trusting the protection up front, and that's a continual point of emphasis for us. And that's why we always make it a priority to invest in the lines, and I think we'll have that approach. It's just it becomes more difficult, and that's why the league is so great. I mean, the more you win, the harder it's supposed to be. And so when you have a bunch of guys that are at the top of the